let's go ahead and get started. First, we can do a check-in question. I love the check-in questions. Maria started this tradition last year and I was totally into it. My check-in question is, what is something that you are either really looking forward to or dreading? Could be the same thing. I can go first, which is, what am I looking forward to? I'm really looking forward to, or dreading. Okay, I'm dreading the fact that several people at my workplace are going to be leaving their positions in the next month. Just like by coincidence, it wound up that way. And so we're going to be like drastically short-staffed and oh man, it's rough. So that is something I'm dreading. What about you, Lindsay?
Sorry. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm looking forward to / dreading, I guess, September, because we were supposed to have a trip to Colorado planned, but I guess no one knows it's going to happen. So we may have to reschedule it. So I'm looking forward to it if it happens. And I guess I'm dreading having to make the decision around going. So that's what I've got. Eileen.
Benny, I'm in the same boat. I have a handful of people that all sort of gave their notice at the same time. So I'm dreading that recruitment process. I am excited. I've never been to a gunquit. I don't know how that's possible, but we're going at the end of the month with our son. So I'm excited about that. So that's something to look forward to. Elizabeth, how about you?
Oh, I've been having a hard time with this. I think what I'm really looking forward to is the start of my church year, which will be in early September. We were entirely virtual last year, and I'm remaining hopeful that we won't have to be entirely virtual this year. And I really hate staring at my computer constantly, and I'm really looking forward to actually working with human beings in person. Nicole.
Hello, everybody. I'm looking forward to actually marching band season. Both my kids are in the high school marching band and they are doing camp this week. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they come with since they didn't have it last year. So looking forward to that. Let's see, Jennifer.
Hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jen Mcdonald. I've met many of you, but for those I haven't, hopefully I can see you in person soon. There's no looking forward to. I'm dreading the dentist on Thursday. It's just a cleaning, but you never know. Jeremy.
You're on mute, Jeremy. Jeremy, you're muted. No.
Well, the little mute symbol's not next to his name,
there we
so
go.
it might be a connection.
Jeremy, maybe it's your speakers. We can't hear you. Okay, Jeremy is diagnosing the problem. What about, while he's figuring that out, Sherry, do you want to go?
Yes, I am dreading finding out that what's wrong with my foot is worse than I think it is, because we are going to.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we are going to a festival
Sorry.
every day that we couldn't go to last year, and it's a giant music and dancing festival. And they're actually requiring people to show vaccination proof. So we were really looking forward to ending up in that big crowded dance tent. And so looking forward to that, but dreading the fact that I don't know if I'm going to even be able to get back and forth from the campground. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go at all. And I spent a lot of money on tickets. Oops.
Jeremy, you want to try again?
Sure. I don't know. My computer is a little wonky tonight, but I was saying I'm looking forward to a trip to Aruba next week, but I am dreading, anything between now and then that can change it, but hopefully everything's on. So let's see what happens.
Jeremy, you want to pick someone?
Yeah, who hasn't gone yet? Because did anybody go that when I was wonked out? So did Teresa go yet?
I haven't. Thank
There we
you.
go.
So is it what we're looking forward to or what we're not looking forward to?
You choose. You can either answer either one.
All right. I'm not looking forward to a commute back to work. I don't want to go back to the office, but they haven't told me when I'm going back, but I'm just don't want to hear it. So I like not commuting. So who's next?
Oh yeah, we weren't here in the beginning. We've got Stephen, Maria, or Daniela are left.
All right, Stephen.
Okay. First off, Nicole, I am also excited for marching band camp. As I have said previously, I can hear the drum corps in our backyard, and myself and the children love it. So awesome. And so along those lines, I am both really anxious for and dreading sort of the fall as it relates to the return to school and sort of what that's going to look like. But also I'm craving sort of that normalcy. It's been a bit of a whirlwind kind of summer, ups and downs all across the board. So sort of that return to a more normal schedule as it relates to life. I will, yeah, I like that. And the crunchy leaves. Who doesn't like stepping on crunchy leaves? So I guess Maria.
Hi, everyone. It makes me so happy to hear you talk about marching band, because as a proud alumna of the Warrior Marching Band, I can every fall I can feel the drum beats like, oh my gosh, like across town. And I text my friends from high school and I'm like, I hear that they're practicing. So it's a wonderful, wonderful time of year with that respect. In terms of what I'm looking forward to, so I, for the past 6 weeks, have done an intensive, comprehensive immigration law training, which has kept me in front of the computer screen nonstop. So for those of you who have emailed me or reached out to me and have not heard back, that's why, and I apologize. So while it's been an incredible training and I've learned a lot, I'm also looking forward to turning in the final exam and taking a break from the computer screen. And Daniela, go ahead.
I am looking forward to the rest of this week. So I just got back from my bachelorette in Iceland and I took the week off so that way I can completely recharge and unplug, which is hard for me to do, but flying and being in a trip for the weekend, I think really just forced me off the laptop, off my emails, off my work phone. And it's great because I have a very German away message along the lines of, if you're trying to contact me, don't, but nicer and professional. So it's nice for once.
Congrats.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. It does not appear to me that there's anyone here for public participation, so we can move along to Jen McDonald. So you all remember last month we had,
Wait,
Sherry.
roll call. You have to do a verbal roll call.
Did not know we had to do a verbal roll call. So does each person say their name or I say everyone's name?
You say it and we say here, at least, right, Maria? Is that, because that's where we did it the whole time you were president.
It's true, although I think as each of us called each other's names out to do the check-in question, I think that could serve as a roll call, but.
Good enough.
I can also do it. Should we do it to be safe? Okay, Benny, I am here. Lindsay, are you here?
I'm here.
Eileen.
I'm here.
Elizabeth.
I'm here.
Nicole.
Here.
Jennifer, you don't count. Sherry.
Yes, here.
Jeremy.
Here.
Teresa.
Here.
Stephen. I don't know if I do you or not as a non-voting member. I don't really understand how that works. Okay, Maria.
Here.
Daniela.
Here.
Okay, thanks everybody. Okay, so last month you recall we started this conversation about how do we respond, or kind of like what is our role in responding to comments that got left on our shared posts out in the Wakefield community Facebook page, or even on our Facebook page, but it hasn't come up on our Facebook page really. It's mostly in the shared posts. And we talked about, what do we do? Should we respond? Should we just not respond? Should we turn off comments to our share posts? Like, what's the best path for us to take? And I reached out to Jen to get any guidance, and she agreed to come and talk to us about it.
Cool. Hi, everybody. So I did put together some slides. I don't want this to be super formal, but I think showing examples helps people understand things, and it also helps keep me on track. So if you wouldn't mind letting me share my screen. So I first want to acknowledge how difficult the social space is and why you're even thinking about turning off comments. I'm in a group of government social media folks, and twice a week someone posts looking for advice, acknowledgement of their struggle, just a place to maybe get some affirmations. It's very difficult for people across different genres, all kinds of municipal organizations. I think about the CDC Facebook page. I don't know if you've ever looked at any of their posts. Every post has hundreds, if not thousands, of comments. There's a human being, or hopefully a team of human beings, behind these accounts who have to read these, who have to digest these, who have to determine what to do with them. They're real people. They're you and I just want to acknowledge that, if you're struggling with trolls and negative comments, you're not alone. This is happening all over the place. It's not unique to this topic, this region. It's really happening everywhere. So I just want to make sure that I get that out there. So just to give you a little bit of background before I start, members of your team have taken a quick training. We're a little unique in that we are a government entity. So we have to make sure that we adhere to public records laws. And I just want to be very clear, I am not a lawyer. I've gotten guidance on this. So our posts and all the comments that come in on our posts are considered public record, and we have to maintain those records and have them retrievable. Now, social platforms are not built for that. So we signed up for a service that archives the posts for us. So, someone might comment on something and then the next day say, maybe I shouldn't have said that, and they take it down, because you can delete your own post or anything like that. The service actually archives that. So even if someone comes back and deletes, they are archived because they're public record. Another benefit is if there ever was a request, you can imagine how cumbersome it would be to have to go back through, like I want certain posts from whatever time frame, and you'd be screenshotting, and this just would allow you to export in a much easier way. So that's dual benefit of that. The other thing that, again, I won't get into too in depth, but I can recommend a webinar if you're interested, is the fact that we are a government entity. We have to acknowledge that people have the right to speak, right? If you have a personal account and someone is really bothering you, you can block them, and that's okay. But we need to be sure that we are, allowing people to speak freely. There are certain things that are unprotected speech, but for the most part, we really have to be careful about, just because someone says that, the whatever municipal department is doing a terrible job, well, it's not a positive comment, but it's an opinion, and people have the right to say that. So again, I have a really great webinar I can recommend to you if you're interested in learning more about that. But from my conversations that I had with Benny, I think the main things you're interested in are community group comments, strategies about what to do with your comments, and then strategies about just negativity in general. So that's what I'll focus on. So the first thing I did want to ask, though, you mentioned that the majority of your engagement comes from the community groups. And I was curious if anybody on the team had like the analytic data about that, or is it just anecdotally you think that?
I've never looked at any analytic data. But
Okay, so it's just anecdotally, you think that most of your,
yeah, if you look at the number of
Engagement.
engagements for a post on our page, it's like, I don't even know how much it is, a couple hundred or something. And then if you look at the number of engagements with a post on that we shared out, it's like way, way more.
do you know if that's engagement or reach?
Oh, maybe reach.
Okay, they're different.
Yeah.
Your reach is going to definitely be higher in a group like that because you got more eyeballs on it. And there is benefit to having eyeballs, absolutely. However, you want to remember, like when you're in a group and you see maybe pictures of sunsets or people's, restaurant down the street special of the day, you might be scroll, don't care. That reached you, but you're not engaging with it. The eyeballs have a benefit, but I just want to distinguish the difference between engagement, like it, share it, comment on it, and reach an eyeball saw it. Okay. So not having any data about that, I just did a super unscientific look at the community group activity. So I looked at the Wakefield MA community group, which I saw you were pretty active in. I didn't see that you were active very much in the Wakefield community group, and there were probably 400 other community groups out there. But I focused on this one just for the purposes of presentation. So I, did a super unscientific search, and I found 25 posts so far this year with 15 total comments. Now, you mentioned that there have been negative comments, and if they were deleted, they're not contained here. Our archiving service can't see into these closed community groups. So if there may have been more comments than that, which you reported and have been taken down, but the ones that are there now, there's 15, and 8 of them were actually conversations with the group administrator. So there's 7 actual meaty comments. So I grabbed what I think are your 4 latest posts, and I just wanted to run through them just in case everybody's not familiar with this group or isn't a member of it, the activity that's going on. So the first one was about Marcia Johnson, and you got 2 comments, and they're from someone who was providing a little bit more education about her, which is great. This next one is about the pride flag raising, and this is just from an admin with a message to you. It's not a real comment. This one is about Don Lemon. Now, this isn't a positive comment, but he's a celebrity TV personality, and people can have an opinion about whether they enjoy his TV presence or not. And then this one was about Lady Shadley. And I'm curious, I see a Daniela on here. Is this you, Daniela, or is this a different Daniela?
No, that was me, and that's actually what sparked this conversation.
Okay, awesome. Let's talk about it.
So I did speak to the admins of the group, and in depth spoke with one of them, Brian Fox, who's I think the hardworking guy there. And so it was reported it was taken down, but that's where I was like, I don't know what to do with this. But basically it was somebody who was pretty rough around the edges about gender identity, and basically called anybody identifying other than what they were born as mentally ill.
Okay.
And they kind of dug deep into that. And so I saw that, and first it was a smart comment, like it's a he, not a she, or something like that. And that's where my comment still is on the page. I didn't delete it. That was my correction. That's what you see is respectfully, her pronouns are she, her. And that's just like I'm not really engaging in back and forth, but it's like, if you're somebody who identifies or, pronouns are really, really powerful to you, I wanted to be like, all right, no, let's let that not sit there by itself. And then in response was then this whole mental illness thing, and how, yeah, I mean, I can't remember the exact details, but they were removed by the admins because it was not conducive to the community that they wanted to build in that group.
Yep.
For Wakefieldians. And but yeah, that's what basically sparked this, was like, all right, I'm gonna be seeing these. I'm pretty active on these groups, like in the sense of that I see things being commented on and posted. But I felt like we have a social responsibility if we're gonna put something out there, that we can't just leave it at that. If something happens on one of our posts, like that's on us to make sure that those who are harmed by comments on it know that we're still there just as much as we were when we posted our argument in the beginning, or not our argument, but like our stance and, you know, our support. But I'm not saying we should go back and forth. I was just thinking like, all right, well, is there some sort of boilerplate response we can have that is appropriate, that is like something that kind of just nips things in the bud, you know, lets people know that we're there, that there are other resources, just because sometimes people with the power of the internet think they can say and write whatever they want, but I don't think that should hurt people that we are here to welcome and set up for success.
Awesome. Okay, I love that you said that, because you're going to see both of those strategies in a couple of slides, actually. So thanks for clarifying.
And are we supposed to be seeing slides now? Because I saw you were looking, but I wasn't sure if you were reading, and then or if we should be seeing slides.
Am I not? Oh my! Come on! Stop it! Am I not sharing my screen?
No.
Oh, people.
Yeah, I have another. There was another thing that encouraged this discussion. I was doing a lot of posting on our behalf on the Wakefield patch, and basically they were just announcements. And I received a series of really nasty posts directed at the WHRC, really negative and nasty. And I didn't respond. Some of them were from the same people. There were 3 people who did this.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was also part of our concern about what do we do when this kind of thing comes up. And that's where we came up with, is there some way we can respond to diminish the hatefulness and exhibit what we really stand for?
Sure. Did somebody say something? Okay, I'm so sorry that you could not see my screen. So this is all I did. Again, these were 2 comments that just provided a little bit more background. This was the note from the admin. This was the, you know, not necessarily positive, but just an opinion about Don Lemon doesn't make the world more enjoyable. And then these were the comments. I'm so sorry that I wasn't sharing. Okay, so I'm going to come back to what you were talking about in a couple of slides. Both of those things are actually things I'm going to be talking about. But I just wanted to touch upon, again, unscientifically, I grabbed a couple of posts just to see a side-by-side. So here I just grabbed this post about lantern making. So the one on the left is the original. You have 13 likes. It's 2 shares, but it's really 1 because one of the shares was the HRC. And once it was in the community group, we have 6 likes and no shares. Here on the left, the original has 11 likes and 2 share, or really 1 share. In the community group, it has 3 likes. This one about the chalk contest, the original had 9 likes and really 3 shares. And in the community group, it's 3 likes and no shares. So I just wanted to, for myself, kind of get an understanding of the activity. Again, this isn't perfect, but just to get an understanding. Okay, so the pros and cons of comments. And again, I want to reiterate, I understand why you want to turn comments off. So for pages, you can't turn comments off. I think I read that maybe in Australia they might introduce that, but things change every day. But as of right now, you cannot turn comments off on your page. There are some people who try to tap dance around it. There's a filter that you can input words, which is generally used. There is a profanity setting, but it's generally used to input obscenities. Some organizations, I don't think locally, but around, have generated lists of every word that exists in the English language, and they'll input that. So if you type in your comment isn't going to show. I don't recommend it. It's definitely not perfect. If someone puts in like a vomit emoji and you didn't put that in your list, they're still going to be able to comment. Things that are spelled wrong are going to still show up. So some people try to work around it, but it's not a real solution. However, in a community group, you can turn comments off. So I just wanted to show you the pros and cons of both, so that if you choose to go into the community group, you know how you may want to make your decision. So the first pro is that's the social in social media. You have the opportunity to get people excited about your event, your article. You can educate people, you get people talking. Can those conversations go negative? Absolutely. But that is the social and social media. Otherwise, you're kind of putting an ad in a newspaper, I guess. So what I did is I went to your regular page. I didn't see a ton of engagement on the community group, so these are just from your regular page. But here are examples of engagement via comments. This one on the left, I don't know what the quality, these are screenshots, so the quality might not be awesome for you, but the one on the left is about lawn flags and people going back and forth. I want one, this is great, I want one too. The one in the middle was, it was about an event that you had, people thanking you and the people who were involved in the event saying how great it was. The one on the right, I love, it was about a training that you had, people were asking questions, you were responding to the questions. And if you didn't have comments, you know, we'd never know if this was appropriate for kids. We'd never know if this was being recorded. So there's really a lot of engagement via conversation here. Another pro is that you can tag in other people who may not otherwise be exposed to your post. So here, again, these are just snapshots from your page. Oops, sorry. We have someone who is tagged someone in to show some videos that you posted. This one I think was maybe about an event, tagged in some friends and someone responded saying thanks. This one on the right, I think was one of your entrepreneurs that you featured for Women's Day, I think, and someone who, it says class, it might be a fitness instructor or, you know, a customer came in talking. So here we have, you know, someone who may go to an event that didn't otherwise see it. We have someone who may watch your video who otherwise may not have had the opportunity to be exposed to it. So that's a pro as well. You also have the opportunity to correct misinformation. And Daniela, this is essentially what you did. For the examples you see here, I went to the Texas Historical Commission, which is kind of a random place, but I recommend, if you're interested, spend a little bit of time. First of all, they have a fantastic page. They post every day really in-depth stuff, but they get lots of comments and they are not afraid to correct people and engage. People ask them a lot of questions, but they also, you know, it's history, and history isn't always beautiful. So sometimes people get upset about some of the things that they may or may not post, and they do, I think, a really great job at correcting. So here are some examples. So this person now in Texas, they may be dealing with having monuments taken down. So it was a post on the left about a monument with, it was in the distance and there was something on the top of it that you couldn't really make out. And someone wrote, if that's Robert E. Lee up there, they're gonna have a hard time getting him down. So the Historical Commission corrected him, said, that's the San Jacinto Monument topped with a huge star, and they're gonna educate, here's how it's built. And interestingly enough, the person was educated. He said, very impressive. He must have watched the video. So that's essentially what you did, Daniela. You corrected, you gave a bit of education if the person wanted to take it, and that's what it is. In the center, this is about another property that someone said, true history, don't let them take it away. And then other people started joining about how they're taking things away. And the historical commission came back and said, we're not aware of any calls for the removal of the ranch. In fact, it became our property and a historic site just last year. And again, amazingly, someone said, thank you. So not everybody who posts something negative is necessarily there to grate you. Some people would appreciate learning a little bit more. Now, the one on the right might be something that may be more in line with some of the feedback that you might get. This was a post about Janice Joplin. It was during Pride Month, and she was from Texas, so they did a bio on her, and I think they showed like a monument about her. And someone was upset that they mentioned that she had relationships with men and women, and said, well, if this is actually important, then why is it on her monument? You know, you have an agenda here. And they corrected and said, monuments only have so much space. It didn't make it on the monument, but we have as much space as we can use here in the digital world, and we're going to expand on what is her biography. So that's, you know, they're just stating a fact, and they're responding to something that, you know, a correction, if you will. So what are the cons? The trolls. I don't need to get into this. If you do have a lot of trolls, you'll probably get to know them and know which ones to engage with and which ones you leave alone. There might be someone who every time they're going to post a conspiracy theory, or every time they're going to say, you know, this commission is useless. You sometimes get to know what everybody's going to say, and you can kind of sort out when and when not to engage. Another big con is that you eliminate everything we just talked about. Like I said, it's almost like a newspaper ad. You don't have the conversation. You don't have the education. You don't answer the questions. So that's a huge con on not allowing comments. You will have to determine which you do and do not allow comments on. And I'm guessing you would have to suppress them across the board, because otherwise you'd be somehow getting into a policy of like, okay, X, Y, and Z subjects, we'll keep them on, and A, B, and C, we're not going to let people talk about. So my guess is that you would just have to make a unanimous decision. We will never allow comments. The hard part is that people see and notice when you won't let them talk to you. And as I was putting these slides together in this community of social folks, someone had that experience, and it came in. So they were having a hard time. This was not someone in our state, but they were having a really hard time about mandated vaccinations, and were really struggling personally with having, I'm so sorry, that's my dog. We're really struggling personally with how to deal with this. So they posted with no comments on, because they just needed a break. And what happened was people sabotaged an unrelated post saying that, why won't they let us talk about this? And this is just one thing. They blocked out who it was, but it says, funny that you can comment on every post from organization except for the post on the order about mandatory vaccination for state employees. So I think people are going to notice if you don't want to talk to them anymore, because that's what it is, it's conversation. And another thing I just want to point out is it even allowed in the group. Now they're run privately by residents and outside folks, so I don't know all the rules, but I did just browse in there, and I did find this from an admin that says that you can't shut off commenting. So I don't know, it's from a couple of years ago. I don't know if that's still relevant, but it's still up. So that may influence your strategy as well. Okay, so what are your options then? And this is true not just for community posts, but on your personal page too. So when you're encountering negative stuff, ignore the troll and let the troll go away. Again, you'll get to know these people, and you'll probably get to know which ones to leave. This is a hobby for a lot of folks, and they would love if you engaged with them. So, you know, that this is often the suggested avenue. Now, I understand that your committee, you know, isn't just about letting things go. So what else can you do? So correct the individual. Again, Daniela, that's exactly what you did. Look for openings to state facts. You do run the risk of engaging, and it looks like that happened to you, Danielle, where they came back again, but you have stated a fact in response to something that was incorrect. You don't have to keep going on with that person. You let them know what it was, and if they want to continue talking with themselves about it, you know, but that is an option. So here again, I went back to the Texas Historical Commission. So the comment was, interesting, but do you folks have info on white people? You seem to be hung up on minorities. And they responded, well, it looks like you're missing some of our other posts, and actually tried to educate them on how to search their page for information that was of interest. Again, we're correcting, we're stating a fact, we let it go. There are instances where supporters take on the troll. Now, you can't really control this, and it can get out of hand, but it sometimes does happen naturally. So this, we're going back to the Janice Joplin post, where someone posted like 10 vomit emojis, and the rest of the folks took on this person in surprisingly civil way. So that it's hard to control, but that also does happen often when you have a lot of supporters. You also have the opportunity to report it to Facebook. So there are community standards everybody has to agree to when this is a private platform. This isn't like some kind of government platform. This is a business. So you have to agree to their terms. And if you want to check them out, it's facebook.com/community standards. And I looked this up today, and it said over the last 2 months, on average, we deleted around 66,000 posts reported as hate speech per week. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't also correct, engage, what have you, but you absolutely have the option to report it to Facebook. And from what I've read, I think that there are human beings. It's not just artificial intelligence. There are actually human beings that do look into this. So I'm not saying you can't use any of the other things, but if you see something that's counter to community standards, you absolutely have the option to report it. Similarly, again, what you did, Daniela, is if you're in a group, a community group, report to the group admins. They have their rules. I don't know how strict they are. They could maybe even say, like, you must type in all capital letters, so you can't be here anymore. It's a private group. They can let people in and out as they please. So if there's something counter to the group standards, then you can report it to the group admin. Another option is to have a commission member, or way better, an advocate, share to a community group on your behalf. So why would you want to do this? Benny, in your email, I saw you say it's hard to stay on top of comments that are happening on the community page. I absolutely understand this. You guys are all volunteers. You have jobs and lives. However, if this was a red flag for me, so if you're posting and you just don't have the bandwidth to stay on top of that post, which I absolutely understand, then I don't think you should be doing that. It's like, maybe getting a phone for your business and saying, but I don't have time to check my messages. If you're going to post it, then you need to stay on top of it. Another, like the main reason is people listen to people that they know and trust. That's why companies have spokespeople, right? That's why there are people who are on YouTube paid to open up a skin cream and be like, you know what? I have dry patches and breakouts and wrinkles, and I'm going to try this new skin cream. And they put it, and I feel so great, and my skin looks amazing. And you're like, wow, that's just a regular person. And my skin kind of looks like hers, and I'm totally going to buy that skin cream. Why? Because it's someone that you maybe know virtually, but it's someone that you trust. You think they're talking to you, and you go buy that. And they can also say things that your organization can't, kind of like storytelling, right? So imagine you have a supporter who shares your post about MLK Day event and says, I can't wait for this event next week. We went last year. My kids loved all the music and artwork. The speakers were engaging. I hope to see a lot of you there. That, to me, means so much more than, again, going back to the skin cream, L'Oreal saying, this skin cream is going to be amazing for your skin. You'd be like, yeah, okay. But when you hear it from your neighbor, your friend, the people you go to the gym with, I think it's far more valuable. And I have an example here. So the town just started offering Black Earth compost. You can sign up for curbside pickup. And we posted about it 100 times. And I happened to see this. And it says, so happy for Black Earth compost. They pick up weekly. We have one, less than one trash bag compost. It makes a difference. And there are 20 comments here of people sharing photographs of their compost bin and the little thing they put their scraps in the kitchen and asking how much it was and is it worth it? And like, you can't ask for better PR than that. Someone might say like, hey, that's my neighbor. Wow, she can do it. I guess I can do it. It's not like her house, her yard smells or anything. I guess it's not as bad as I thought it was. And it's that kind of storytelling that I feel is so much more valuable than when we just posted like, oh, the government's posting that we have this option. When you hear your neighbor say, this is awesome, I do it and it's easy, I think it makes a big difference. So this would be my suggestion to you, especially if you don't have the bandwidth to monitor your posts. Now, you can't really control this. It's not like you can call people up and be like, hey, can you post? But as you build your community and your supporters, this kind of happens naturally. So I hope I answered your questions and gave you some options.
I will say really quick that for me, the thing about it's hard to stay on top of the comments that are happening in the community page is I have found no way to make it notify me when somebody comments on a shared post. So like I get notification as one of the admins, I get emails every time somebody like comments on our page. That's great. I can respond to comments. It's like easy to stay on top of. What I'm not going to do, I'm not personally like a member of the community group, so I don't go there and scroll through the posts. And so for me to stay on top of the comments, I would have to like, I don't know, set an alarm every day to like log into the HRC web page, Facebook and like look at our shared posts and like see if anybody has commented. Like, it's not that there are so many comments that I don't have the bandwidth, is that I like legitimately cannot figure out how to make Facebook send me notifications. So maybe I need some remedial training on that. But
okay, that's interesting that you're not being notified of activity on your post.
Yeah, not the shared posts. I do get notifications for like our Facebook page.
Okay.
I wonder too, like from another page that I manage though, when our posts are shared, I don't get, if it's like shared to another mom's page, I don't necessarily get notifications that. So that's what I think Benny's saying. Like if our thing is on the community, shared to the community page, she won't necessarily get notice if they're saying something.
But she's sharing. This is the issue. It's not that Sherry is sharing the post and it blows up. It's the HRC is actually going into the group and posting again, essentially.
Is that what Benny's saying? Because it makes sense that you would get notification if the HRC shared to the community page.
These are the posts that I'm finding.
If somebody else shared an HRC post to it, then you wouldn't know about it.
No, that is what I'm saying. I, as an HRC admin, share the post to the Wakefield community page, but I don't get any notifications of comments on those posts that I have shared. And I tried to like change the settings. I Googled it like repeatedly. How do I make Facebook like change this notification setting? And I like couldn't figure it out, honestly.
I do get notifications as an admin of another page if I post to a community group. That's why there's.
I wonder if it has to do, I don't know. I don't understand it.
Stephen, when you're doing that, are you posting directly onto a community page or are you sharing a post from your page onto another page?
Sharing directly from the page to a group that the page follows.
So groups and pages would also be different, set up differently. So because groups can be, yeah, it's tricky. And I think, Nicole, you're experiencing what Betty's experiencing basically as admins of a page. If you share it, but it's the same thing as if like I shared the post the HRC post to a Wakefield community page, Benny would only get a notification that I shared it. If that, she would just see that in like the likes and comments analytics. But if like 10 people comment on what I shared into the community page, Benny wouldn't see that because I don't think it's set up that way. And so what I wonder is, it's not an option on there, but say, for example, we have, because, you know, we are all volunteers. It's something in itself to get online and post something. It's another to keep up tabs with it. So would it make sense to delegate, you know, different tiers of people who are on social media? Like if Benny, if you want to share a page to a community, a post to a community page, alert, say for example, me, and then I would be the one who's on there and monitoring it, because then that lets you step away and divides basically the brunt of the responsibility, you know, the heavy responsibility. Shouldn't all just be on one person. And we also have help there with the community pages. There are guidelines that are very much in line with us. But at the same time, they're all volunteers.
But at the same time, if that happened, Daniela, then you personally are the one responding, and it's not the HRC. And if you want it to be the HRC saying, hey folks, listen, here's an article, you know, this isn't right, correction, here's a great article, please let me know if you want to talk about this anymore, from the HRC, then it's just, from what I'm hearing, the strategy wise, it's just you, Daniela, who they may not know is a member. But I just want to, I'm curious, I wasn't seeing big engagement. Like, if this is tough, is it worth it?
Well, I think we haven't been super active as much as we could be. And there were campaigns we were thinking about or we were going to discuss today. And this is a topic that I think is necessary to iron out before we really go forward with anything that's, you know, say, for example, educational on proper pronouns or use, for example. You know, that way when and if we experience any negativity, we know how to react. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, everyone. I mean, we've been doing like pretty informational, non-controversial posts up until now. I think Pride Month was just, you know, something that struck a few nerves here and there. And there were more than the comments in that one post that I had reported that were taken down. So that's the other thing, is you don't really get to see the negative ones because I'm pretty quick when I see them. I'm like, nope, and sometimes I report it. When I report it both to Facebook and the admins. So that way the admins have a heads up of who they need to flag on their own side, because they kick people out that are pretty nasty.
But I do worry about the bandwidth issue of keeping up.
Yeah. It makes sense. I mean,
and it's a lot of work. I get it. But I think if you're going to post and it's not going to be, again, a member sharing or a supporter sharing, if it's the commission, then you need to be able to monitor it, again, for these reasons.
For sure. Then would it make sense to, instead of sharing our own post, copy and posting it multiple times versus sharing one post? Because as much as sharing the post helps bring people to the page, and they can like the page, follow the page for more content like that. If we were if instead of you sharing that post to the Wakefield community page, if you just posted the same exact thing there, then you would get notifications on comments and likes.
And do you have time to, even if you get the notifications, do you have the bandwidth to say, okay, there's 30 comments, I'm going to read them, I'm going to respond when I have to, I'm going to think about them?
I don't particularly. Also, though, like, we don't get 30 comments. So, but there are times during the.
But you want 30 comments. This is what I'm hearing. You want more engagement in the community group.
Yeah, I think we want to reach more people, you know, like we have an event coming up, and how do we get that into people's radars? You know? Yeah, Elizabeth, what do you have?
So we've been talking a lot about the posts that come directly from our page, but I'm wondering too about things that are posted and then like our responsibility in posted by someone else, but say about our events, and our responsibility in terms of responding to those. Because we are getting really low engagement with our posts, but someone shared a picture this year from the Pride flag raising, and that has 305 comments. And some of them are like deeply unkind. And so that then is a very different experience than we're getting from our own posts. And questions that we're getting, like, why are there children here? Why are children allowed to go to this? Isn't there school today? Feel like they need some sort of response or engagement. And clearly, because it's not our post, there's no like responsibility to follow up or no notification. But I'm wondering about like what our I think both individual and collective responsibility might be when we've got posts like that, because those posts are getting many more reactions. And that's not the only one. That's the first one that comes to mind, but there are others.
There's so much to say. Can I step in here? I'm so sorry. Okay. So I totally hear what all of you are saying, and I'm super excited to be part of this conversation. And thank you, by the way, for coming to present. That was incredibly informative and really interesting. So I appreciate your time. I think, I don't know if you'd agree with this, but I think a lot of that speaks to the troll piece. And I think kind of like with bullies, what I tell my kids in therapy is, you know, the more that you respond, the more that they engage, and the best way to make them go away is to ignore them. And I think kind of what you're speaking to is getting to know your audience. You're going to get more engagement from trolls because they want the attention, but it's not the kind of engagement that's ongoing or helpful or, you know, beneficial. They're not out there sharing or doing any of that. They're just sort of popping in and making a nuisance and just sort of getting out of there. So I think it's like important to just sort of remember what's important, informing, you know, correcting and, you know, educating people, and then just sort of leaving them to a point. I mean, obviously, if it gets out of control, it's when we're reporting things, it's when we're, you know, going to Facebook for, you know, extra support. But I think to some extent, and Sherry, you were speaking about this a little bit, I think that's more, it seems to be more of what I am not on Facebook a lot, so maybe I'm not the right person to be speaking to this, but it seems like that might be your experience with some of the same people over and over. And Daniela, it seems like you're getting more specific, maybe people that aren't quite as, you know, trollish. So, I mean, I think honestly, with some of the stuff that's out there in the universe, we just kind of need to ignore it and, you know, put the education out there, and we're going to get, you know, it's public opinion and people have, you know, right to their opinions. We're going to get both sides. But I think at the end of the day, we need to pick our battles and educate the public. And that's our personal and social responsibility, I think, honestly, is not to engage and just sort of pick our battles and inform the right way and in a helpful way. So thank you for listening. That's all I've got.
Maria has her hand up, and then Elizabeth.
Just going back to how to respond and keeping up with the comments that are coming either on our page or that WHRC has shared to the community group. We had, Benny, just remind me, how many of us are administrators or have the ability to comment directly from the WHRC account?
It might be the two of us. Is there someone else? Is anyone else here an admin on our Facebook page? No.
Okay.
Yeah,
So maybe the answer is designating one, possibly two more admins, because you shouldn't alone be expected to keep up with those, to keep up with the comments. And if we had some sort of system in place that when you do share something, or when any of us as admins share something to the community page or the community group, to just give the other people a heads up to say, just posted this, if you could just keep an eye on it. And that, because I feel like the alternative is not commenting, and if we want, or not posting, and if we want that engagement, if we want to reach more people then yeah, we have to figure out a system without the burden falling exclusively to you.
Do you guys keep a calendar of your posts? Like, you know, the next 2 weeks, this is what we're gonna do? Barring any things that come up in the world, obviously. That might be helpful to you. It'll also take, it'll take time to make it, but then it's kind of easier for you if you have mapped out like, okay, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we're gonna do these. You need to keep an eye on it though, because if you go, you know, you wanna celebrate like World Donut Day and someone choked on a donut that day, you don't want to post that, but that would help you all too, because you'll know what's coming up. It's like, you know, your strategy for the next, say, 2 weeks. It'll take a little bit of time to make, but it's all written and it's less work for you during the week when you need to do it.
So Elizabeth had her hand up, and then now I see you, Sherry.
So I understand what all of our options are. The question that I was trying to ask was, when someone else posts, do we have any individual or collective responsibility? And then what is that, and what are our boundaries as members of the HRC? So I understand all of the options. I really appreciated them, but I'm wondering, as we're engaging with posts that come from other people, where boundaries and expectations come as a government entity in terms of our own individual and collective responsibility on someone else's post.
Is that a question for me, or is that?
Yes, sorry.
I mean, it's, I guess it would be no different, right? If you were in a group setting and as a team, something happened and as a team you decided to respond, or if there were letters to the newspaper, 5 letters came in Monday through Friday, do you want to respond to it? You decide as a team. I don't know that that's something, you know, for me to tell you. I think that's for your organization to decide. Do, you know, this is happening over here, and you know what, some of you folks aren't even members of this group, so not everybody's seeing it, but some members are. And do you need to go back to your team and be like, okay, team, I guess you have to have a public meeting to do that? This gets tricky. But you need to decide, are we going to hop into somebody else's conversation?
What about as individuals?
I mean, you could, I don't know if you would need to say I'm speaking on behalf of myself and not my group.
Like,
I would need to check on that, whether you personally, you would have to say that, but.
Okay, great. Because like for me, I wasn't speaking on behalf of, but if someone did their research, they would have been able to see that I'm a member. And I don't know if, you know, I think, you know, what I said wasn't like bad, but, you know, was I okay to do that?
Yeah, because Tom Mullen, when he talked to us about this like significant gray area where if a member of a public board expresses an opinion about topics that are within that board's purview to a quorum of that board.
It's deliberation, right?
Yes, deliberation. Yeah. And so if you post something on Facebook on a topic related to the HRC and more than 6 of us see that post, which is weird because like, how can you tell who sees it? So then it becomes this like hypothetical thing, like more than 6 of us maybe could have seen it or something. And so he kind of was like, maybe just steer clear of that. But then we're in this moral bind of like steering clear doesn't really align with our values. And yet then there's this like weird public meeting law thing that we're bound to, even if we're posting as individuals, even if we're not posting as an HRC official.
Right. I would think if you are posting as the HRC, then you are posting as the HRC. I see this is happening over here. I'm going to jump in. I would have to check in about whether 3 of you can hop in and be like, this isn't okay, you know, read this article or what have you. That I don't know. But whether the HRC, because you are a member of this group, hops in to something that didn't involve you, but you see that it's happening.
Yeah,
I would think that's your discussion.
I don't envision the HRC page hopping in, but I think Benny just hit on like the real question that I have, which is that like,
whether individual members,
gray area, and as individuals, like if we are saying that we have a responsibility to engage and respond and even to re-educate. Are we getting into any messy area as we respond as individuals? And for me, that's especially like, I'm thinking about that as like, I have a professional responsibility to engage in this community. And so if I'm gonna like hit up against then some other like other ways that I participate in the community telling me I can't, then like there are some things I need to examine.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let me check with him on that, because if it's a gray area for him, it's way grayer for me.
I want to recognize that Sherry had her hand up a little bit ago, and then we went down another path. Sherry, did you still want to make your comment?
Well, mine was so much more operational. It was in response to Jen mentioning calendars. We're kind of decentralized in that when a particular event is going on, there's a group that works on that event, and they put together a calendar for that particular time period leading up to that event, rather than having an annual year-long, but we're working on it. We're trying to put it together so that we can do those regular postings and to increase our engagement. But right now, we're like very decentralized. You know, if it's MLK month, that's the committee's going to post. AAPI, we do everything. We figure out the calendar, but we're trying to come up with something more comprehensive, and it would be very useful going forward. So when those of us who are no longer commissioners, those who follow us will have some guidance.
So Stephen, I see your hand, and then I am wondering if we should wrap this up.
I know, I'm taking up so much of your evening, guys.
Yeah, we
have
have
a great conversation.
We have a lot of agenda still to go.
I know you have a really long agenda tonight.
But so I think that we should like put it back on the agenda for next month, continue grappling with this question, continue thinking through based on now what you have shared with us and any additional information you're able to get from Tom. Yeah. What do people think? Stephen, do you still want to
I just want to think, because when Elizabeth was commenting on sort of the responsibility that there is to sort of, I don't know if respond is the right word, but when Jen was talking about, you know, one option is to just present facts and then kind of take a step back. It's some people can post with misinformation, and could it just be a stated sort of thing to just make a correction, sort of devoid of emotion, even though so many things are emotionally charged. Just sort of someone would likely state their feeling on something or their emotion on something. You don't necessarily have to talk to that, but if they're outright saying that, you know, X is Y, you just pick, no, X is X, and here's that piece of information that maybe you're missing. And can that be enough? And in that way, does that sort of guard against going out of bounds? And if other people want to have some sort of discussion that drags you into the mud, you know, my new favorite thing is this year is, you know, you don't have to go to every fight you're invited to. So
and I think that's a great strategy, Stephen. Yeah, especially on your page. I think the question is, can Elizabeth jump in with a correction, and then Daniela jump in with a correction, and Teresa jump in with a correction? That I don't know. Because also the like, if it's everyone's responsibility, it's no one's responsibility problem. Like, who is delegated to be looking at the post, like you said, and responding and things like that. So I feel like we need to iron out some of the logistics as well as if you want to monitor the entire community group every day. If it's not just your post, if you do want to hop into other conversations, that's a lot of monitoring. You just gotta know that. A big place.
It is.
And there are more than one. There's more than one group.
Yeah. Well, Jen, thank you so much for coming and being so generous with your time and that very lovely presentation.
Thanks. I hope you learned some stuff. I'm sorry it took so much of your agenda, but it was great conversation.
Yeah, it's a sticky subject, so it takes a lot of picking apart.
Cool. And I'll send you some of those webinars if you have time. You can check them out and learn a little bit more about the various subjects.
All right.
Great to see you all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I'm going to barrel ahead if there are no objections. Cool. Next on the agenda is Oh, Abigail Lane is not here. Okay, so, but just FYI, I got this email from the principal at the high school saying, hey, we have another student. I know that you already have your student appointee, but this person is interested in getting involved, and, can she be involved in a, what's the word, just like a volunteer capacity? I said, totally, that's so great. So her name is Abigail Lane. She might join us for meetings in the future. That will be nice. Next. Approval of the minutes from July 21st, 2021 general meeting. So are there any changes, additions, revisions, anything that needs to be changed about the minutes that Sherry shared with us? No?
I want to thank Eileen and Benny for giving me some corrections. And I also am very sorry, Amy, initially I didn't have you on the meeting, but you were there. And I'm including you as present this time too.
Thank you. I had to join late. I am here.
Thanks, Amy. It's good to not see you. It's good to hear you. Let's see. Okay, so let's go around and do our vote. First I need a motion.
A motion.
Second.
Great. So for the approval of the HRC general meeting minutes from the 21st of July, 2021, Lindsay, what say you?
Yes. Yeah.
Eileen?
Yes.
Elizabeth?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Teresa?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Daniela?
Yes.
Well, we have so many A names on this place. Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. Flags and crosswalks, I will give a quick update. So I contacted both Steve Mullen, the town lawyer, and Julie Smith-Galvin, who's the chair of the town council, to ask about this flag question, because we said, could we put the flag on different flagpoles besides that one at the Civic Center? Could we put it on multiple flagpoles? Like, what's the options do we have? And Julie said she was going to get back to me for the three of us to have a meeting, me and her and Tom, and I don't know, maybe Steve Mayo. I haven't heard back about that meeting yet, so I sent another reminder email earlier this week, but hopefully I'll get something. And I'm glad that we're starting the process early, because I do think it will be, slow. I forgot to bring up the crosswalks or like any street painting thing. So I'm hoping to follow up and include that in whatever conversation we have. So far, nothing to report, but I'm trying to keep the ball moving. Educational social media campaign idea. This is you, Daniela.
Yes. I don't know if we want to position this for after we figure out, but basically what I was thinking of ideas, I don't know if anyone saw the graphic that was attached, basically just infographics on terms that are no longer appropriate. We could have done one in July, for example. We could do it next year for, July 26th, the anniversary of the ADA passing. But basically, an example there is, words that are outdated, like, well, I don't think I need to say them, but, there are lots of things that are outdated and that are still commonly used. And the example that was attached is on certain things about gender identity and sexual identity. And so just having a small informational campaign that extends over a calendar year or so. And so maybe it's like a post a month or a post every 2 weeks. And so it's super lightweight. We can get something that's already created, give the original poster complete credit and get their permission for us to post it. And that way it's not like we're reinventing the wheel, but basically just getting out there and saying what is, and then potentially getting some conversation started. I do foresee these things being controversial to those who are not like-minded. And so that's why I really wanted to make sure that we had an ironclad grasp on, can I respond personally to something that I see on a Facebook group? Or can the HRC, I think that's a big conversation for us to have. And I think the biggest part of that is individuals, because if I see something, I am going to be like, I want to say something, but can I, like, did I join this and then lose my right to say things on social media because it could potentially be linked to this group? So that's something I do want to hold off on, because we will want to be somewhat reactive and proactive if some really nasty things happen because of the information that we put out there for educational purposes. So for that, long term, I was thinking of that we would partner with the student organization. I think it's the Student Civil Club or something like that, but
The student council.
Is it the student council? It's someone who is Civic Action. I think it is Wakefield. It's one of our members here is in that group. But basically that way we can streamline a post that we have on Facebook. They could post it on their Instagram and reach the younger generation. Not that, and then I wasn't sure if we could get some materials and help cross promote educationally. I think it's the next agenda item or another agenda item down, as if we collaborate with the people who put together with the Juneteenth event, just to like have more content and collaborations. And then that way we are in direct contact with potential OG posters versus us finding it off into the internet web. We can, amplify the voices that are immediately in our community and around us.
Sherry, go ahead.
Question. Are there other infographic fact sheets like this on language, on different categories of language, not just this category of language?
Yeah, there's tons out there. I just wanted to show an example. I wasn't going to work on like a full thing, but like that's what we could also discuss, is if we, wanted as a communications committee step aside and have a separate meeting of like, okay, what are the big subjects that we think are critical to highlight? And, if we wanted anyone interested in this quorum to join that said meeting to help us basically brainstorm what areas that we can campaign again.
But the reason why I'm asking that is because I can see a category right off that I need help with. On the letter we got about the grant, they use an acronym, BIPOC, BIPOC.
Yeah.
And I could guess, but I don't really know what that stands for. So I'm assuming there's a lot of other things like that would just be a matter of people understanding. I mean, they just assume that we would know, every one of us would know, and I don't. Some of you might. What is it?
That's Black, Indigenous, People of Color. I think acronyms is something that we could most certainly work into every theme, if not have that in itself as acronyms. Because I mean, even me, I'm like a mid millennial, and sometimes they're Gen Z's coming up with some sayings and acronyms, and I'm like, oh no, now I know how my parents feel when I come home saying things. So that's a really, really good point. Thank you. Yeah, but that's a great, we could either include it or have something that's completely dedicated to acronyms.
Yeah, Eileen, go for it.
I love this idea of like doing something on Facebook and then having the Student Youth Council be involved. And I think that's awesome. I think to Sherry's point, there are other generations potentially that are not on Facebook and are probably not on Instagram or TikTok, or Snapchat, or barely email. And so I wonder if there's an opportunity for us to be sharing in paper form some way into the community. And like, does that mean, could we work with the Wakefield item to include an insert that has like, the terms of this week? I know that they deliver the paper 5 days a week. And so is there an opportunity for us to do that there? Or are there other news like physical papers, right, that happen maybe in Melrose or wherever. And so that would be kind of nice too, if there's a way for us to partner with them.
The library.
Or the
Yes.
library, yeah. I mean, something that you pick up when you go to town hall, you know, that are in with the forms that say like, you know, teaching whoever just sort of shows up. So it would be great. Or the senior center, just like a way for us to expand it outside of the social media. If I gave my dad a
Yes.
phone, he would shake it until it started. And so if there's a way for us to just reach more people that aren't on the technology, I think that would be great.
I love partnering with the senior center. I bet they have billboards. Everybody loves billboards in a senior center. Lindsay, go ahead.
Sorry, I have like a really bad habit of getting super excited about certain things. So sorry, everyone. I love that. I love the senior center idea. And I think just this sort of goes along with what I will not talk about tonight because we are running behind as it is. I don't really have much to share anyway, but I think this is also a good opportunity to sort of work in some of the mental health components around education and just providing education to the public overall, like throughout the year, not just during certain months or certain events, and just having that accessible to everyone in different formats and different forms. So I know I'm not going to say I'm like super old or super young, but I do not go on social media regardless in any platform very frequently. So I know like different methods regardless of age are really important to certain people as well, because for mental health, social media is not always very healthy all the time, guys. So just take a break once in a while. So I think it's really good to just have that available to the general public, you know, and just across the board. So Daniela, I'd love to talk with you more about any resources you might have. I'm in the process of hopefully working with some other partner agencies that might be able to help disseminate the information in an appropriate way. So maybe we can sort of get together and work something that might be helpful around that too. Thank you.
So Daniela, was I understanding you that you wanted to wait to kind of make a clear decision about this campaign until after we have our decision about how to do social media responses, or like package those together?
I think we can package them together, but also there seems to be all good reactions here and even more ideas as far as like expanding beyond social media campaigning. Maybe we could just call it like an informational campaign or educational campaign.
I think it would be okay if we had in parallel the conversations of basically a content calendar brainstorm of what topics, and before we actually get into the work of like finding the posts and getting ready to post them. That way next month we can have more clarity on what an individual's ability is to say or do on a post that is or is not HRC. And I think that's the big thing right there, is like, what can we do as an individual? Because as an HRC, like she said, we would have to have a meeting to then have a decision on how to respond to something. And that's something we're going to need to figure out next month, but in parallel. So I don't know if we can like get an approval of like a rough idea and then be able to next month present on it, or maybe the month afterwards. So that way we kind of get that feedback from our guest tonight and any next steps from that. Does that make sense?
Sherry, go ahead.
I have an idea. If we frame this campaign around the language of diversity or some kind of title like that, I think people will look at it and say, oh, they're just giving me a whole bunch. The people who are negative, I think you'll get less negative responses, and other people who might be interested will say, oh, these are things I didn't know. So I think if we give it a title like that, which sounds educational and doesn't sound confrontational and is not in your face, it just says, this is the language of diversity, I think that it will be better received.
I like that.
So Daniela, it sounds like you or whoever else is interested together could be developing or seeking input on or whatever this kind of sequence of posts, not necessarily having to write, or figure out the content totally, but thinking through like what topics would we want to post on, kind of getting that outline. Is that something that you would want to work on between now and next time?
Yeah, that would be great.
Do you want other people to help work on it with you?
I mean, I don't mind inviting. I think everyone is welcome to join. So if you're particularly interested, I would love to hear from you. And I would definitely be using that the calendar of events, because it might be relevant to post certain things in the month that certain things are happening. Maybe even those days. So I would be using materials that people in this group have already created. So just even more of a reason to collaborate.
Cool. Well, I will put it on the agenda for next time to check out whatever rough draft, like sketch idea you have. Anything else before I move on to the next thing? Cool. Thanks for bringing that, Daniela. I think it's like exciting and there's a lot of cool stuff we could do.
Yeah, no worries. So I don't know if people can just like tell me offline if they're interested in joining, and then I can set up a meeting. Or
I am.
Or do we do that here? That's in the notes.
Yeah, Sherry's totally excited.
Yes. I was an English teacher. Anything that has to do with language, I'm interested in. And since I can't go anywhere, I'm sitting, you have no idea how long the day can be when you can't get up.
Anyone else particularly interested in working on this?
So Benny, I know that my thing is like the next one, but just listening to that, it kind of sounds like it could go kind of hand in hand. Some can go hand in hand. So I'll wait until unless I can now do that agenda item now, or wait till people volunteer with Daniela.
Well, it looked to me like Daniela got her volunteer.
Okay.
I think you can go ahead. Start talking, Nicole.
Well, I had mentioned a few meetings before that I thought it would be beneficial for us to have maybe like once every other month or something, someone come and speak for a quick 5 minutes about something that we support. So someone from the Indigenous community could come like in October and just talk to us, like give us a brief thing about what's going on or something, just to educate us. Because like Sherry just said, she doesn't know what BIPOC means, and that would be good. If not, a lot of people in the group knows, or like I was saying for Pride Week, different things that were going on. I had no idea, like I didn't understand. And I think that we as a collective should be very knowledgeable about things that we're doing. And so hopefully I can get it going. I know Maria said that she may be interested in helping, and Lindsay, just a brief 5 minute something, even just like I said, about things that we support moving forward. So when Danielle was talking about this, the posting on social media, so like you were saying about the ADA, a lot of people, we may not understand everything in it, so it would be good before you get ready to post that maybe that we have someone come in and give us a brief talk about it, or if we're going to talk about mental health, Lindsay, something like that. So everybody's still.
That's also a good thing for us to post, that we're engaged in this, that we are also learning. So I think making that a public post, that this this particular month, the members of the WHRC have invited to become better informed about the following, just so people know that we're not know-it-alls. We are trying to learn.
I love it. So I will keep this also on the agenda for next time, and you will share with us whatever you worked on. Okay. Active bystander training, I reached out to the folks who organize those, and they are game for whatever. It seems like they're pretty open in terms of scheduling. We were talking about the fall. She sent me some like information about the dates that we had already had trainings on, how many people attended each one of those. So looking at the dates that we already did, the Saturday morning ones were the most heavily attended. There was two. There was a Thursday evening and a Saturday morning. Both of those got 22 people. So I don't know if that gives us really any data to go on, but I think we should pick a couple dates. They're open. So they said, you tell me some dates that work for you, and we'll look at our calendar and see what we can do. So I wanted to get suggestions of like, do people have any thoughts of what date would be good? Lindsay, go for it.
I don't know specific dates, but I know personally, I took that training, by the way. It's wonderful. I think I mentioned that previously, really, really good. So I would definitely recommend it. I found that having it on a weekday night was really helpful because I know I work kind of later on weekdays. So it was really nice to have that option. And I would not have been able to do it if it were on a Saturday because I work Saturdays as well. So I think having the option to do it over the weekend for people who work during the week or in addition to a weekday night would be really, really helpful so that people who work kind of either schedule would have the opportunity, maybe like a weekend in the morning and like a weekday in the afternoon or evening, kind of like you did before. I think that worked out really well.
We are actually only scheduling one because it's a makeup. There was one, we had 4 originally scheduled. One of them only had like a couple people register and they won't do the training if like less than some number of people register. So they gave us the option to reschedule for a later time when we could get better attendance. So we have one session. I guess my first question is overall for like the population of the world of Wakefield, on average, do you think it's better to do it on a weekday evening or on a weekend day?
Which was most popular the last time we did?
They were the same, I think, right?
Oh, they were both weekdays?
No, they were both
Oh,
the
they
same
were
number of
equal.
attendants.
But
Right.
one filled up before the other. So one was more popular than the other.
Oh, I have no insight about that. Yeah, I don't know.
I think Maria, it was the weekday evening filled up
I
faster,
think it
right?
was the evening.
Yeah.
Then I would go
yeah,
with
it's a
that.
Weekday night. So maybe having it, I know that I feel like in an earlier meeting, someone had pointed out that there tends to be a lot of meetings on Thursday. So maybe doing it on a Wednesday and if, depending on people's work schedules, for those who couldn't make it on a Thursday night, maybe they'll have the option to attend on a Wednesday night, but just throwing it out there.
Any other thoughts or insights about which weeknight is best?
This may sound counterproductive, but there are lots of meetings on Thursdays for a reason. It's because for whatever reason, people tend to have Thursdays open, I guess, which kind of sounds weird, but it's sort of why it happens. Like I'll personally say I was able to go on a Thursday when I'm not sure I would have been able to on a Wednesday. So I guess there must be some sort of logic behind that makes people able to go Thursdays. So maybe that could be why. I'm not really sure.
And in the association world, Tuesday is the big night.
Daniela.
Mondays and Tuesdays are industry nights, so generally restaurants that are not chains are closed. So that might be a better night to plan for. People aren't going to be going out to eat. Restaurants are closed Mondays and Tuesdays typically because they won't get enough business then. So that might help as far as, although it doesn't sound like it is because we're all saying different days of the week.
I mean, there's never going to be one perfect night anyway. So, I mean, I feel like just for variety, the last time we had it on a Thursday, do it on a different night of the week. But I think, I think we just pick one.
So what about Tuesday?
Tuesday is a huge night for nonprofits to meet, board meetings. It's for some and functions. They don't like to meet on Monday, coming right off the weekend. They meet Tuesdays. And, I work in that environment, and people who belong to things and sit on boards or go to meetings, whether it's Zoom or live, Monday would be a better night. There's far less going on Monday nights.
What do people think? It sounds like we're maybe between Monday and Wednesday.
I like Wednesdays better than
Yeah,
Monday.
I do too. I don't think Monday it's a good idea. People are still trying to figure out their week.
Yeah.
I just thought Daniela's thing about the restaurants not being open, that was a good point.
Oh, Wednesday.
Wednesday. Okay, I'm gonna go back to them and throw out a couple Wednesdays. Are we thinking like September? Should I go to October?
I would do, I wouldn't do the first 2 weeks of September because school's starting and everything. I would do like this, either the second half, second half of September, beginning first half of October, somewhere in there.
Okay,
Okay,
I'm
and
gonna throw out-
be mindful of Jewish holidays.
Right.
Great point.
Yom Kippur is the 15th of September.
Okay.
So 22nd or 29th of September are not holidays. Unless you consider the first day of autumn a holiday. So 22nd or 29th of September.
Okay. Thanks, Sherry. That's a great point. So I'm gonna email them back with a couple of Wednesdays late in September, maybe. And I will keep you all posted for what I hear back in terms of what, what they're available for, what their trainers are available for.
I have one note about tab.
I'm sorry.
Okay, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The 22nd and the 29th, I mean, once we hit sundown, we're not on holidays, but those are actually holidays ending those days.
They are?
Yeah.
Which holidays, please?
Sukkot ends on the 22nd and Simchat Torah ends on the 29th. And so those holidays should end at sundown, but that's like fall is a very challenging time to schedule anything around religious holidays.
I was just thinking in terms of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur as the two big ones that most people would commemorate rather than the others. Well, there's October 6th.
Yeah, maybe early October is better. I can commit to looking at the holidays and like picking some dates that are don't fall on a holiday. What else? Any other thoughts on that?
I just wanted to note, I had told you that I had recently decertified as a facilitator for these trainings, and I actually took the course for the live trainings, and they ended up, because of what's going on, determining that they cannot have any live trainings. Everything will continue to be Zoom, unfortunately.
Yeah, great point. I meant to mention that Zoom meetings. All right, I'm going to go on to this. This doesn't require a decision. Well, it does, I guess, require a decision from us. The Follow Your Art Community Studio, which is a nonprofit out of, I think, Melrose. They have this fellowship for a BIPOC writer, and they contacted us to see if we would push it out through our networks. So basically, it's just an ask to like post it on our social media or whatever it is that we do, which that basically I think would be what we do. What do people think about sharing a post about this fellowship on our Facebook page?
I thought it was good.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I was wondering if it would also allow us to have more opportunities like that come through that we can present. And, at some point in time, if we could have a running list, because pages can have documents that are running lists essentially. So we could always have that constantly updated. So along with other resources.
Do you happen to know if they've shared this with the library? Because they really should.
I have no idea, but when I respond to her after our meeting tonight, I'm happy to plug the library for sure. Any concerns or objections with posting it on our Facebook page? Okay, cool. All right. Next is I wanted to be proactive and form an Indigenous Peoples Day subcommittee for planning whatever we might want to do for Indigenous Peoples Day. Last year, what we did because of the pandemic was a virtual book reading. We had three people read children's books over the 3 days of the Indigenous Peoples Day long weekend. Maybe it was 4. Anyway, I can't remember. That's an example of what we did, but it could really be anything that is your heart's desire. So is there anyone who is interested in jumping in and being involved in planning some kind of commemoration for Indigenous Peoples Day?
I am Nicole Jacob.
Nicole.
I don't want to lead it, but I would like to help.
Cool.
I'd like to participate, but since my wedding's like a month before, I think I might have like a lot of things going on. Definitely want to participate.
Cool. I'd be into participating again this year. I helped me and Maureen put it together last year, so I'm into it. Anyone else want to jump on?
And one thing that I want to just point out is that from September 15th to October 15th is Hispanic Heritage Month. So I would love to, I think we should do something for both, and we don't need to go crazy because I think we always try to do more than we're able to do. But I think a recognition of it, maybe a couple either book readings or, I mean, those of you who worked on Asian American Pacific Islander, you guys did an amazing job. So I would be happy to work on that.
Thank you for bringing that up. And I want to apologize that that wasn't on my radar to initiate that subcommittee as well.
I'll jump on that one.
Sounds good.
Anyone else interested in Latinx History Month, or however you want to frame that? Latine?
I have no idea.
I am interested, but I'm not sure. I'm gonna say I would like to help also.
Great. Maria, Teresa, and Sherry.
And I'll tell you, my interest is largely, a lot of it has to do with music. So that's.
Sorry, I didn't catch that last part. What did you say?
My interest has a lot to do with music.
Music.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Although I can't salsa right now.
I can't either.
I usually can, but I can't. Okay.
Okay, well, that's exciting. Thanks, everybody. And we are getting back into our subcommittee seasons of love here coming up for the next like 7 months. So good times. Okay. Event planning templates. Oh, this was, there are 3 event planning templates that went out in the packet for today. I apologize about not getting the AAPI one out. I meant to spearhead that for me and Sherry's committee, and I never did it. So my apologies. But there's one for MLK CSK Day. There's one for International Women's Day, and there's one for Pride. Those are kind of drafts. We each put them out to our groups, got feedback, if any, and then emailed it to all of you. So if anybody has any particular feedback, things that you think should be added to those templates or removed or changed. Does anybody have any thoughts?
I think our templates need to be more universal, that everyone follows sort of the same kind of structure so that they're more similar. So I think that that's one thing we should be working on, is looking at them and seeing how we can create more of a universal template for everyone to use. I mean, we already have something like that Communications Committee put together. And I think it also would be helpful if we put it together in more like Excel chart type form, just to make it easier to glance at and read.
Yeah, Daniela, go for it.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, Sherry. I think maybe a next draft or the third one afterwards can be more universal. I read through all of them. I felt like I could follow through. The formatting could have been a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? I would have been able to follow through a little bit easier if it was just formatted just slightly differently. But it was clear to me, except for one that stood out to me. I think it was the International Women's Day. And the reason why it stood out to me is that it was just such on a tight turnaround, whereas everything else started well in advance. And it was more of a report of how it was done this year versus what could be done in the future. And I think that's what the other templates sort of walked us through, is like, okay, so around October, we should already be planning for the subcommittee of this, and that it, you know, lays it out. And those events or those templates, I thought then could be revised, kind of how Sherry just mentioned, just in a more universal template, whereas I felt the IWD might need a little bit more tweaking. One, to consider just starting a little bit earlier. I know it's the holidays, but that way, like, you're not feeling like crazy tight turnaround. If that is the one I'm thinking of, I just opened up real quickly. I'm pretty sure that was the one.
I think you are talking about the right one.
Okay.
Yeah, it was tight schedule. We were coming off another event.
Yeah, and that's just crazy. And I think one thing in general is for all of us to see these big events that we're planning for, sort of have a number of subcommittees that we're going to be building. I love that we already know this seasons of love of subcommittees is 7 months long, approximately. It's starting now. Having all of us very conscious of how many subcommittees there are, where these events fall. That way we're not all like, yeah, I want to volunteer, because then all of a sudden we're like, wow, all of my interests happen back to back to back and I need a break and I'm going to get burnt out. That I think burnout is going to be very possible, and I don't want us all to sign up for everything that we're interested in and be able to just figure out, okay, these are going to be the priorities, and then backups. You know, this was my priority, but then I shifted it because I needed more time for my mental health. But then there's not enough people. So having that ability to then be like, okay, you know what, I know I can't step up for this actually. So that's just something I think maybe September we could probably have just like an outline of the different subcommittees, the different events, and how those timelines can fall into place and overlap.
So there's two things I'm hearing. One is to revise the template so that they have a more universal format, and like more like the type of information that's being conveyed is similar across the different events. The other thing I'm hearing is formulating a timeline of when the major events are that we do, so, and when the subcommittees take place for those, so that people can have an idea of like what's coming up and when they may or may not have bandwidth to sign up for stuff.
And Jen Besher had already done that. That was on that big calendar that we put together. So that is there. Plus the last meeting, I presented the before, during, after of event planning. It was already sort of a template. If everyone could refer back, maybe we should send it out again to those two particular documents, and then we can fill it in better. But
The one
Jen
that
had already done that. Yeah.
The one that Jim Betcher made has the timelines for the different
our major events.
Right, but it has the timelines for the subcommittees as well?
No, it just has when our major events occur.
Yeah, the question I think was about planning ahead for when the subcommittees will have to be active for each of those events, so that people know like which ones overlap. Like MLK Day and MLK Day and International Women's Day, those two like essentially should be overlapping, but this year we did them back to back, which was like not it was hard. That must have been hard to do. Teresa, I appreciate you having been on those two back-to-back committees. Jeremy.
Yeah, I just want to put out there too, the topic of burnout on the committees. Don't forget that I think this past year, some of the committees were very successful in getting help from the community, right? So if you're on one of these committees early on, think about a strategy on how to reach out to the schools, how to reach out to the community and get those interested. Eileen's on the committee now. She was very interested and joined us on some of those plannings and, joined the committee. So, but we have lots of people that will show up and be interested, so.
So who would want to work on the universal format for the event planning templates, and I'm happy to work on that kind of timeline of when the different committees would be active. I'm happy to put that together.
Since I've already started working on that, the event planning, I sent it out last month to you all. I'll continue working on that. I'll look at it even more closely and see what I can learn from the individual timelines so I can see what I might have left out and needs to be included.
If it helps, Sherry, Gantt charts are really easy to visualize overlapping data like that.
Which, I'm sorry, what did you say? Which
Gantt, I'll email you, you know, like how to build it in Excel, is that I think that's what you were using before,
Yeah.
or a website that you can build it in and then copy and paste it into Excel. Because then it just sort of like shows like the different timelines, the months, you can see like the different committees. That way you're not like, oh my goodness, what do I do with all these numbers?
Okay. Well, since we're going to be speaking about the language as well, we can talk about this kind of thing in addition, how to put it together. Okay.
So one thing I'm unclear on is like, so Sherry, are you going to take the templates that got sent out and like put them into the universal format, or are you?
No, I'm going to take the template that I created and look at what other people have created and tailor mine so that it fulfills what people need. It provides what people need in putting together their own. And when I give them that, then they can then slot their information just into it. So I'll create something, but I will base it on not only what I've done before, but on the kinds of things I see and what people have created in the past month. So I'm going to do consolidation.
Sherry, is that the event promotion and planning doc that you shared back on July 19th?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm confused about what is the point of having two separate event planning templates?
Wait, no, not having two. No, what we're looking, oh, geez. No, not two separate ones. One universal one so that people can then just use that instead of trying to come up with their own outline or idea. So that it's sort of consistent from event to event. We're looking for some consistency from event to event.
This is a very generic but useful model, it seems, sort of timelining out and then what mechanisms you might use. It's not saying that you need to use all of them.
That's right.
But if you need to use them, like create a Facebook page, here's Jen McDonald, here's your email. You know, if you want to write to the item, the observer, or the patch, here's how you get in contact with them. You know, those are all pre. A bunch of optionals, creating flyers, who's here you could reach out to, day of event, photograph, take notes, post event, WCAT recording, how to get that out, and then write and distribute follow-up press releases. It's a good generic template.
I actually used Sherry's template to create, like I stuck in every bit of that into the Pride subcommittee planning because it's great to just have it all there. Yeah, so Sherry, that was awesome. And I had some questions on mine, like who do I call for, you know, the flags, Benny, for that day, or like what are we doing with the crosswalks, that kind of thing. So I plugged in some of that, but yeah, Sherry, that was awesome.
Okay, so like I said, I'm going to review your submitted drafts and I will then incorporate things that I might not have put into my original one. So we have something that we can all use consistently and easily.
That's awesome.
I'll continue working on it.
Sounds great.
I have a question. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to have like live events or no? Are we still everything online?
That's a great question. From what I know, there's not like a ban on live event. We can have live events. There's live events happening now. I think it's a question for us, like what we would want to do.
Because I'm just thinking, I just thought of like the musical thing, right? And like if we have like a night or something around the lake or I don't know, you know, like celebrating like whatever, like it doesn't have to be big or anything. I'm just saying like because we're outside, at least we can be outside. But I wasn't sure, is that something that I asked like the town?
I think so. You know, I can't remember us doing an event on the common, But I imagine there's some process you go through to,
Okay. I'll find
I
out.
think we would have to ask permission to use any public space for an event.
Okay. Okay.
but I guess the first step might just be emailing Steve Mayo and being like, hey, if we wanted to have an event with like music and festivities on the common, like, how do we do that?
Okay.
Something like that.
I'm thinking about music and a food truck. Yeah.
Right. Say, maybe you're giving me my project already. All right. I'll ask. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, anything else on the event templates? All right, we're getting there, everybody. Physical storage space. Any updates?
No updates. I will circle back next month.
Great. Electronic storage. This one, my question is, we now have the electronic storage, whatever you want to call it, space. It seems like it will then be a project for us to put all of our stuff in there. So the idea with this was, we ran into this problem every year where, you know, there's the International Women's Day Committee meets up and they're like, like, does anybody have the agenda from last year's Indigenous Women's Day? It's like, nah, I think Pina has it, but she's not on the commission anymore. You know what I mean? And then you go through this whole thing of like, I think I could email Pina. I'll try to get it from her. So we made we contacted the town to set up for us a way that we can store. It's not for, you can't be like editing documents together, but it's just a place that you can save copies of old things that could be helpful. Flyers, you know, event agendas, promotional materials, whatever it is we want to be saving, we can put it in there. And so then next year people can just like go in, find the folder that has their event, and you don't have to recreate the wheel every time. But so my question is, Maria, nothing's been put in there yet, has it?
I put a few things in there. I'm trying to think. I think maybe pamphlets from, not pamphlets, but like programs from previous years. Yeah, it's been about a month since I went on it, but there's not very much. There might be 2-3 documents. Yeah.
Is it something that any of us can put material in, or do we have to do it through one person?
I mean, I think that's open for discussion. Do we all want to, do we want everyone to be able to access it? Which there's no reason not to, just in terms of simplification. It's not in terms of like trust or anything like that. It's really just for simplification. Do we want just a couple people to have access to it? But if the purpose is to be able to see programs from past events, then it would make sense for everyone to have access to it. So I don't think there's anything prohibiting us from doing that, and I'm happy to send out the access to everyone if they want to take a look at it.
I'm thinking that before we do that, perhaps we should have some structure to it. I don't know if you've already set up like the files that say the different events, or, I mean, I have files on my computer. Like I have one I call Toolkit, WHOC Toolkit, and I put things in there like the Robert rules that I gave everybody and the communications template. These are just, you know, things that should be in everybody's toolkit, you know, for the group. Or how to post a meeting, how to schedule a meeting. That's part of the toolkit. So I'm thinking we have to let's make sure we have the categories in there first, so that it's not all big and we can find things.
Right. So yeah, and I'm happy to add those folders and categories. And if I have that all together by the next meeting, I can do a screen share and kind of do a demonstration of how to log on and navigate it. So yeah, I mean, it's SharePoint, so it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think that would be super helpful, Maria, if you could do that.
Yep.
And I'm sure everyone who's been through any of these planning processes probably has like a pile of documents we could dump in there for future generations.
Exactly. So yeah, if anything, if anyone has anything that they want to send me now that I can put in, I'm happy to put it in. Or if you want to wait until I do a walkthrough and you want to add it yourself, that's fine.
Danielle, I see your hand.
Might be messaging you, Maria, something to cover for next meeting, but I do technical operations at my company, and SharePoint's one of the things I have to advise on. And there's a lot of things that can break that when people treat digital files and folder names like when we were younger and used manila folder files and document names, that can actually break them over time. So I want to make sure that we're set up for sustainability. So as we grow, we expand, we age, that these files never get lost. So yeah.
So why don't you and I talk and I'll give you the access. I'm scared of breaking this.
Yeah, so I'll let you know. I mean, I don't think you'll break it, but just over time, we just need to make sure that we develop certain practices, like not having super long title of a document that will eventually actually make it corrupt in the end.
That sounds like a great system.
So I'll message you afterwards.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Look at this expertise we have here in our group.
That's right.
Okay, so we are on to matters not anticipated. Lindsay, you had messaged me about something that you wanted to bring up.
Sorry about that. I'm having some Wi-Fi issues. I'm going to table it till next meeting if that's okay. I don't really have anything much to add tonight. So I'm working on collaborating with other town entities, Department of Public Health and the Wake Up Coalition, but they're on vacation till the 23rd. So that's about the only update that I have. So.
Am I misattributing this? Who emailed me about Afghanistan? Oh, Danielle,
not
sorry,
me.
my bad. Okay.
Hi. So I wanted to discuss, I was kind of hoping we wouldn't get to the 9 o'clock. That's my cue to like wrap it up. So I didn't want to discuss exactly America's role in what's going on in Afghanistan. I think we're all pretty knowledgeable, and if we're not, then we can look into that in our individually time offline, as I don't know if this is exactly the space for it, but I do feel like, especially since the National Guard's just right across the hand there, we must have a lot of military people, and it has to be an incredibly difficult time for those who went overseas, who are potentially still dealing with PTSD, who in the last 20 years could have gone on one to more tours and now have just seen what they went over there to do go away within a matter of 24 hours. And when I messaged you, Benny, it was like the next 48 hours are critical. At this point, the next 24 hours are really critical. And so I think that there can be a role that the HRC could react to influence how, as Americans, we can provide healing, perhaps promoting ways to get involved. I'm pretty sure we can't promote fundraisers. I'm not sure. I wanted a confirmation on that, but we could at least promote the cause and some leaders of it. And I had examples of Vital Voices who funded Amanda Gorman. She was the poet who spoke at the inauguration, and they funded her as a young activist. And now they expanded its Voices Against Violence initiative and Urgent Assistance Fund to get support out to women activists in Afghanistan that are on the front lines of change, to ensure that survivors of GBV, gender-based violence and harmful practices have better access to services, protection, and the justice they serve. These leaders that are of these causes could promote fundraisers. And so it would really be up to the individuals that see our posts to follow through on their own research and resources. But, we did say something. We put out the boilerplate response to the Winthrop shooting. I feel like this is something that we really needed to have already responded to. It is a human rights issue. It is something that we have involved ourselves in as a country. And I do think that there are a lot of military personnel within Wakefield that might need to see something some support, as well as anyone who potentially has families over there or are refugees themselves.
Thoughts, reactions, ideas?
I guess my question for Daniela is, are you asking, well, it's a couple things, right? Like, are we allowed to share fundraiser information for other organizations? Number one. And then number two, are you asking for us to participate in sharing that individual organization on our Facebook page, or like, is that sort of the ask here?
Yes, thank you. So to summarize the asks, first question one, yeah, can we as a entity promote fundraising? I thought in my training we could not, but I also could be thinking of other things. Then two, if the page could promote some sort of method of kindness and getting involved on Facebook. And then, I mean, if you as individuals want to post anything, that's totally up to you. I was just thinking that as the Human Rights Commission, we should say something.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I love the idea of saying something. I think the only reason why I'm pausing is that there were some comments when back, I can't remember which month it was, when there was fighting between Hamas and Israel, that people were saying, why aren't you saying anything about this? And I think the general feeling was, this is beyond the scope. I mean, yes, it was a human rights issue without question. But it was so, I don't even know how to phrase it. It was so far afield that it was like, it felt like it was beyond the scope of the HRC. And my only hesitation in saying or not saying something is lack of consistency, that it's like, well, why are you commenting on this international human rights issue when you didn't comment on this other international human rights issue? So it's not out of a lack of feeling and emotion and passion for what the people of Afghanistan are going through. But it's just making sure that we're consistent in terms of our message.
That's a really good point. Thank you for bringing that up. I would hate for us to be hindered by our past actions or like the way that we were, because we're so young. I feel like we're still developing and things are ever changing. But it is a really good point. I would hate for anyone who identified that we needed to have said something before that we didn't, and then now they see this and they go, well, is it only because we're it was our troops pulling out? That's the other thing, is there's that. And I do think there's like another sense of just like people in the military that right now, I really can't fathom what they must be going through or thinking right now, especially if they lost anyone over there or a part of themselves. Yeah, so it is a really good thing to ponder, Maria. The other thing is that this is one thing that we wouldn't be able to table, is that was the other thing I wanted to bring it up, even though it was 9 o'clock. I was trying not to bring anything up past then, is just that if we don't say something like tomorrow, then the ship somewhat passes, or we can say something and comment on it another time. But it's just like the time to get people out of Kabul is now. And the fundraisers to get planes out of there, to get refugees, are happening now. Yeah, I see your point though, but I also see that we had a direct hand in this for 20 years, whereas we had a back, like it wasn't as direct in the last event.
I see your hand, Lindsay, but I have one question, which is, does anybody know the answer to, are we allowed to promote fundraisers? Because I don't think I know the answer.
I don't know definitely, but I feel like I don't know, there's just something in my gut that makes me uncomfortable advocating or endorsing fundraisers.
Mhm.
Oh,
In
Nicole, you're
fact-
muted.
Oh, you're on mute.
In fact, when I approached the library about even selling "It Has No Room Here" signs on their portico, on their plaza, and their town entity, we could not do that. They said you could do it in the street, but you can't do it on the property. So I'm thinking that this might extend also to a Facebook page. But I have to say, I have to agree with what Maria has said. We are a community organization. We can, and we talked about how many battles can we fight. And I mean, I've been reading so much, I've spent so much time reading about what's going on today, and it's heartbreaking. But so is the situation in Ethiopia. So is the situation in Syria. So is the situation in Venezuela. And believe me, we were part of creating that situation in Venezuela. And we can't respond to every incident. We just can't. I think that there is a limitation for a group like this in terms of scope. It might be in our heart, it hurts our hearts to think about it, but I don't think that we can do that. I just, it's overwhelming. It's just too much. And we are, like I said, a small community volunteer committee.
Okay.
Nicole, you had tried to say something a minute ago, and then Eileen, I see your hand as well.
No, I was just saying, like, I thought that I had heard or read also that we cannot do fundraisers. That was all.
Okay, I'm gonna go to Eileen and then Lindsay.
So maybe this is where all of Maria's training doesn't get lost, right? Her 100 hours of sitting in front of Zoom, but is there an opportunity for us to share refugee resources from the Massachusetts State website or their Facebook pages? We're not necessarily taking a stand, right? But we are just sharing resources that are available. I will be honest, I don't know what resources are available, but is that something that we could do in response?
So it could be a combination of things. Daniela, while I don't think that we could endorse the fundraiser, we could certainly list that organization as a potential resource. I do have other resources. The American Immigration Lawyers Association has been sharing a lot over the past 2 days about organizations that are helping Afghan refugees. So yeah, I'm happy to share those if we want to put those in a Facebook page or Facebook post.
And certainly the VA, the VFW, the traditional organizations that support military, I'm sure is very aware of the need to help the people who are just reliving this over and over again.
Lindsay, what were you gonna share?
Thank you. Daniela, thank you for bringing that up. I think that's, important. And thank you for bringing up the military families in the area as well. And of course, the Afghan refugees and anyone struggling really here and overseas families there. And here, I personally did lose someone in this particular war. So it is something that hits home for me personally, but I certainly can see where a small community group, wouldn't be able to take on something just of this magnitude. So I can hear that side of it too. But I do think, Eileen, you made a great point about, offering, just universal resources and having that as sort of both for veterans, loved ones who lost, members, in the armed services or, refugees, just for everybody. I think it's important to be able, once again, I'm all about, information and access to that. So I think that's a really good opportunity for us to share information in a helpful way, for a larger audience without speaking directly to every, very big human rights violation all over the world. I think that would it's horrific what happens everywhere. And it would be wonderful if we had an opportunity to share education around everything, but I just think it could get overwhelming, I think, for a lot of people. And there is such thing as too much information. And right now, I think a lot of Americans and everyone is we're getting a lot of information, and it's heartbreaking. So I think there's a lot to be said for timing as well. And we're still going through it, I think, and a lot of people still are. So thank you for bringing that up. I just wanted to share that piece. And Eileen, thank you for that idea. I think that's a great idea. Thank you.
Stephen, go ahead.
So kind of to continue the thought process on, I would say perhaps the idea of sharing out resources for mental health, I don't think there's ever a wrong time for that. I think it is fairly topical, right now. So I don't think we'd run afoul of anything in particular on that. And then also along the lines of sharing out some refugee resources, Governor Baker did just say today, he voiced through Twitter that the state would be ready to accept Afghan refugees. So again, very topical, very sort of in the moment, and I think likely appropriate to share.
Okay, so I'm hearing more moving in the direction of sharing like resources on a local level that are responding to this international issue. Is there anyone who would be able to compile or write up a post? I'm happy to post something if somebody like has the resources or would want to like put something together.
I have some resources that I can forward to you because I actually work with the Red Cross Armed Services Division as a volunteer for them as well, and disaster mental health responder for situations like this overseas and here. So I can definitely give you some information that could be helpful in terms of information, but it's more sort of mainstream, both for refugees as well as individuals here. But I would definitely welcome other information that's not exclusive to Red Cross or the things that I already have in terms of mental health. But I can give you what I have for sure.
Yeah, and if somebody else, if somebody wants to draft like just a short paragraph or something like that, I can send you the resources that I have related to Afghan refugees.
If Lindsay and Maria, if you want to share those with me in the next day or so, I can write something up, and then I would love someone else to look at it before it gets posted. I know you will, Benny. Just cross my T's and I's. And then, yeah, I'm happy to put something together.
If you want a complete, like I'll step away from the resources, so I'll be a complete outside view. I can look at it if that helps.
But Daniela, the I forget the name of the organization, the one that you said, definitely include them. We don't need to mention the fact that they're fundraiser. We can just mention them as a, another resource.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Danielle, if you want to send that to me, I'll add that in.
Okay.
That sounds great. Team effort. Thanks for bringing it up, Daniela. And I think it does, it like pushes us to consider this question of like, what is local and what is like, what's within our sphere and what is not. So I appreciate grappling with that question. Any other matters not anticipated?
I'm sorry to ask a question. I know it's late and everyone is fading. I did want to ask about this speaker series in October. Elizabeth, has the social justice group, have they mentioned anything about that? I don't mean to put that on them. That's something that we do jointly, but
what I have learned in my first summer is that we are entirely absent during the summer.
Okay.
So I don't think any thinking has happened at all. What I will also say is we are currently grappling with what our indoor space use looks like in terms of safety and COVID precautions. And we are very close to having an approved plan. It's just being sent to our board. So I can be sure to pass that along to the HRC as a space that I know the HRC uses.
Okay. And yeah, with this being a completely atypical year and things changing rapidly, there's nothing that's set in stone that says that a speaker series A has to happen or B has to happen in October. So yeah, that's fine.
I'm sure their interest in doing it has not waned, but I don't think that they are back to thinking about fall or in-person events, because I think that what normally they would have done is put some consideration in the spring, and everything is just so unpredictable that planning 6 months ahead has been impossible for the past year and a half.
I think we all get that. So okay. All right, all good. Just keep us posted.
Absolutely.
That's all from me.
All right. Anything else? Okie dokie. Sherry, do you want to go over the action list?
Oh, boy. Okay, let me enlarge my document so I don't have split screens. Really. Okay, so a large part of our presentation was with Jen, but following that up, Benny is going to follow up on having a meeting regarding flags and crosswalks. Sherry and Daniela will work together on a campaign tentatively called The Language of Diversity, and we're going to provide a draft at the next meeting. We have formed an Indigenous People Subcommittee of Nicole, Benny, and Daniela in her free time when she's not planning her wedding. We have a Hispanic Heritage Month Committee with Maria, Teresa, and Sherry as volunteers. Sherry, with assistance from Daniela, is going to tweak the communications promotional plan and integrate ideas that we learned from the templates provided by the different events so that we can have a universal template that's easy to use for everyone. Maria, with Daniela's assistance, will create sustainable categories and folders for our electronic storage. And at the next meeting, Maria will share how we can post things in that storage area. And then, in the matters not anticipated, Lindsay, Maria, and Daniela are going to put together different resources so that we can, under a response written by Eileen, that's informational, so that we can exhibit our concern and provide useful information to people. Now, tell me if I forgot anything or anybody or misspoke. Okay. Now I'll try to make some sense of the minutes that I took, and I will prepare them for you, and you'll have them within the next 2 days.
Thank you, Sherry.
Okay.
So although it may break some hearts, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to motion.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, Lindsay, what say you?
Sorry, yes.
Eileen,
Yes.
Elizabeth,
Yes.
Nicole,
Yes.
Sherry,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Teresa,
Yes.
Maria,
Yes.
Daniela.
Yes.
All right. Thank you all so much.